Welcome to the Universal Dancer podcast with your host Leslie Zare, author of The Alchemy of Dance and the Alchemia Remedies. Coming to you live from Cairo, Egypt, the ancient land of Chem. Journey with us to explore sacred dance, the sacred arts, the mystical and the magical. Join a community of like-minded souls seeking to understand the cosmic dance of co-creation through the sacred arts. Come along and expand your mind, ignite your creativity, and explore something new and something old. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you could be here. Please like and subscribe so that others will know. Share widely. Today we have a special guest, Amara Pagano. So let's just jump right in. Amara Pagano is the creator of Azul Conscious Movement and is committed to the journey of awakening love. She's been teaching movement as spiritual practice for 30 years. She facilitates and trains others to create psycho-spiritual movement experiences as a path of the heart. Amara is also the co-founder of the global conscious movement community OneDanceTribe that produces events with teachers and presenters of different modalities for the purpose of creating a unified and collaborative field to support personal and collective evolution. OneDanceTribe and Azul produced the first online conscious dance conference in 2019 and the Embodied Movement Conference in 2022. Each conference gathered some of the best teachers and scientists in the field of movement, consciousness, and embodiment, and over 12,000 participants from around the world. As a leader in the world of conscious movement, Amara is forging a path for its continued evolution. Through her work with Azul, she is redefining the work we do on the dance floor as a path of awakening consciousness. Azul is a heart-centered integrative practice for mind, body, and spirit that utilizes the power of movement to harness the body's intelligence and awaken our highest potential. Azul combines Amara's expertise in embodiment and movement as a healing art with a clear map of spiritual reality and tools for self-knowledge. Azul is also influenced by the latest discoveries in science, including singularity and unified physics. The path of Azul takes you on a healing and liberating journey that ultimately reveals your inner truth, elevates your life experience, and supports your full expression. Amara says, "The evolutionary pull towards growth and healing has always propelled me in this lifetime. When I discovered at age 20 that I could combine my love of dance with healing, a whole world opened. This is the world I have been exploring ever since, and the one I would like to travel with you, using movement as a path to awaken love." Welcome to the show, Amara.
Welcome, Leslie. Thank you for having me on your program. I'm really, that was beautiful to see your intro and to really get what you're doing. I'm learning about you and what you're doing as well. And I really appreciate the intention of your work. And I love that you're in Cairo, in the ancient land of Chem. We are close, and I know a little bit about what that means. So I'm really, it's nice to meet a kindred spirit who is doing similar work in that spot on the planet. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Mutual Admiration Society here.
Right.
Well, let's jump right in. And I always like to kind of go backward before going forward. So maybe you can just tell us a bit about how you got into dance. What were your first experiences with dance?
Well, I in some ways came out of the womb dancing, have been doing it most of my life. Early on, really studying forms and structures, and also having a spiritual experience inside of that. I would say that my first spiritual experiences were inside of those dance floors and dance containers. At a certain point, I was quite good at it, and thought that that's really what I would do, to choreograph and to dance in that what I knew at that point of what that looked like. But as life has its way of working with us, my story is that I applied to get into the Philadelphia Performing Arts School, which is the school that's in the movie Fame. It's really a hot, great place to go if you're a teenager wanting to explore. And I did. And I got in, and my parents said no. They wouldn't let me go. And so my response to that was to stop dancing, which had its own effect. And I went through a kind of a dark period. And when I reemerged, I was able to find dance as a healing art. And I share this story, kind of for two reasons, like to perhaps honor those dark passages that we go through, because they tend to lead us to something that is more important to our soul, which is certainly what happened for me. And also to remember that life is, everything that happens to us is a part of it. It is, it wasn't like a mistake that my parents did that. It's what happened. And it actually propelled me to where I sit today and what I stand in today. So I can give gratitude for that. And I can carry that awareness forward with me, that life is supporting me, that that there are no mistakes. And yeah, so just wanted to share.
Absolutely. Yes. No, and I think sometimes those things happen too because we would get distracted with something. You might have gone on to do dance, whatever form you were doing, and never find that deeper layer of a healing art just because you were busy doing other types of dance. So I agree with you that these challenges are those points, those forks in the road somehow that take us in a different direction. Yeah.
Yes. And so at age 20, when I, kind of came back to it and found movement as a healing art, it launched me into all I've ever done in this life, which is to teach this work. And had the good fortune to be at a college at that moment that was really supportive of me finding my way. I was able to design my own course on exploring movement as a healing art that took me all over, I literally traveled and saw things and studied different modalities that supported it, and then primarily ended up with Gabrielle and 5 Rhythms. It was in that, at the very end of that year, that I had the privilege of dancing with her in person. And when I met her, I just locked in. And she was a major teacher for me for a very long time. I taught the 5 Rhythms for 20 years. And there was a part of me that thought I would never leave that I would never birth my own modality. But that was not my story.
So what took you into, so the path of Azul is that's what you call the modality that you created.
Yeah,
So tell
yeah.
us a little bit about that. What is it? What does it look like?
Well, the path of Azul came out of, you know, my own soul's growth. As I just said, it was rather a surprise to me that my journey with Gabrielle, that my I was close with her. And my father lived around the corner from her in New York. And I had the ability to be with her, to meet her, to have dinner and to share and to be guided from her for many, many years. And I didn't think that would ever end, but it did. I could feel it coming. I could feel that there was something else that was important for me to make space for. But it took me a little while to really get it, as it does sometimes when we get attached to what we know and attached to what is our familiar ground. But eventually I was able to recognize that I needed to let go. And as I was able to do that, it created a space for another teacher to enter. And it was really, this teacher was really important for me in that moment to carry me further on the spiral. For those of you who may be familiar with Gabrielle's work and the work of the 5 rhythms, it's an incredible path for freeing the body, for freeing the heart and even the mind from the limitations that we kind of take on in this human form. But what it does is it didn't give a pathway for addressing the shadow. It created that freedom, but it didn't tend to the ripple, to the responsibility of that freedom. And I found in my own journey that I really needed that. And so as I began to work with this teacher, whose name is Prem Baba, who's a Brazilian shaman and also awakened in the East Indian tradition, he was able to provide a pathway and a map to take me further. And so at a certain point in that, I asked him for permission to bring that together with my expertise and knowing of 20 years of teaching movement the way that I had, and to add in his path of self-knowledge and silence and another layer of psychospiritual work that allowed the shadow to be integrated, allowed a deeper layer of healing to happen.
And I think when we take a form, I haven't done 5 rhythms, but when we take a form and we pass it through ourselves, we then can birth another form, which is going to be slightly different. And as you said, it integrates whatever that is that we need to highlight and that we can bring to the table. So I think with 5 rhythms, maybe Gabrielle's focus was not on the shadow and yours is. That maybe that was something you needed on your path, and so you were able to integrate it into whatever it was that you created.
Yes, and interesting, I think Gabrielle's journey was kind of from the spirit world down into embodiment, down to the feet, getting it all the way down to the feet. And my journey has been the exact opposite. I came into this world very grounded, very much had a very strong and powerful childhood and human experience. And my journey has been to rise back through the vertical, to connect back and awaken that vertical channel in me to spirit. And so this union of our humanity and our divinity is a foundational piece in Azul. Azul is really working with bringing those two together, honoring the way that our human experience supports the vertical channel and the way that our spiritual knowing we are spiritual beings having this human experience, how that helps to support us to go further in our human. It's kind of like, can we maximize the possibility, the potential for what we have in this opportunity of being here now in this body. And I think that this particular piece, what I call embodied awakening, is helpful for many of us right now, and helpful for this passage that we are trying to navigate to being responsible for the world that we live in, for taking care of the land that we live on, and the people that are on it. We're struggling to kind of shift out of an old and into the new. We can feel it in what's happening in the world right now. With this current situation and war in the Ukraine, that there's this old that is like so outdated and yet still here. And the
But
pain of yeah.
I think it is a progression. And
Mhm.
as you're saying, with the five rhythms, that if that allowed people to be embodied, that was definitely something we lost. Maybe that's kind of the foundation that needed to be built. And
Mhm.
now once you build that, you already had it from your childhood, but once you build that, then again you can ascend off of that plane, the waves, I guess. Then you can ascend off of that plane and do something with it. But it is important to first be embodied before
Yeah.
you can move on to other things. And I think a lot of people are not are not embodied because
No, that
of so many reasons. Yeah, just the way that we're raised and programmed. I think we're not encouraged to be in our bodies. So
no.
and dance is a wonderful thing. I mean, do you feel that that is why you were so embodied, was because you were dancing from such an early age, as or many things in your life just put you in that embodied state?
No, absolutely. I mean, the part of me that got attracted to dance and to movement is the part that, that knew that wanted that, the resonance of that. And I do think what you shared about being embodied is, we um, we live in a world that we are not instructed from a young age to be embodied. We don't have a language really for that. We don't have an honoring of that. We are, for the most part, instructed to think our way only through life, and have lost touch with that intelligence that comes from, a whole system, a being embodied, right? And 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 that disconnection is painful. This is part of why we feel so separate and isolated and alone, is because we have, forgotten the body. And it's not just, for me, and I think maybe for you too, it's the movement is it's the dance, the movement. I sometimes like to use dance and movement interchangeably, because it's really important in my work, and maybe in yours too, that people who aren't dancers can
Mhm.
find themselves, because it's not really about the dance. It's about the experience that you're having internally through the dance. And the dance is just a really amazing vehicle. I mean, it's a vehicle that has been used since the beginning of time for us to express and to pray and to connect. So we're kind of spiraling back around to this awareness of the potency and the power of movement to support our process of living and being human. Um, so that was a lot that I just shared, but I feel like we're kind of going both ways with embodiment. Like it's so important for us to learn to be embodied, to bring it back into the conversation, to have a listening that includes the body, right? That includes a listening kind of through the movement. I mean, that's what we're doing when we're dancing, at least in Azul, is we're listening through the movement. There's something that we're connecting to internally through the process of moving and listening through the movement. So
And
there's that. Yeah.
is that what you would describe embodied awakening as? That process of listening to the body, or the intelligent, the body is actually speaking to you to bring things through, or
Absolutely. This is kind of what I was just trying to get to. Like, it's coming both directions. Like, to be embodied is important, to kind of come in and occupy and be connected to is important. But there's also this other aspect of it that I think we touch in the movement, in particular in the dance. And that has to do with the body's capacity to be a reflective surface for us to actually feel what is true for us, what is happening for us. It's a way that we can access the very points that are needing to be felt, expressed, released in order for healing and understanding to, in order for consciousness to awaken, you know. And so it's coming from both sides. It's like being embodied to simply be in the intelligence of the body, and it's also this, the body and that and the movement can carry us on a journey of awakening, because the body is like it's like a hookup. It's a connecting point to spirit. We are not just, you know, like our physical bodies. Our bodies are a field of intelligence, and that field of intelligence, while we're here in this moment in a body, is what can connect us to our soul's journey, to what our soul is actually here learning in this lifetime, and also to that, you know, kind of, you know, whatever you call God, whatever you call spirit, to that greater intelligence that we are a part of, that we are, and that we're a part of. And our bodies can actually be a place to connect to that. And it's powerful in that way. It's one of the most fast, direct paths that I know of.
I think we've forgotten that our bodies are this sensing organism, they are it's our receptor, and that we've been living in that Cartesian paradigm of the body and the mind being separate, and the mind, I think people think that the mind is what processes everything, but that's not really true. The body is really what processes everything. The body is where the truth is also, I think, is another important point. The mind can play with you, the mind can imagine, the mind can create, which is a wonderful thing, but the truth is in the body. So I think as we connect into the body, or realize the potential of the body, perhaps as a vehicle for that connection to the world around us and the world inside of us, I think a lot of people have lost that realization. They think all of that happens in the head, and I think anyone who's doing any kind of embodied practice knows that that is not true. It's that at all, that it's your body that's actually holding the truth and sensing and receiving the information, and how important it is to use your body as a vehicle for that on a spiritual path.
Yes. And even on a practical path of just how we move through life, you know. I mean, I think that is spiritual to me too. I've been chuckling inside of myself, because I also think that our spirituality needs to get very practical these days. And it is how we relate to each other, and how I show up in this moment with you, and how you listen to me. And all of that is spiritual to me. Um, but, oh gosh, I lost the track of thought. It just popped right out.
Well, I think what you're saying is a really important point, that it is our life path. It's not a practice that we do for a couple hours a day. I remember a woman asked me once, I was doing a workshop at her studio, and then she said to me, "And who are you when you go home?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm the same person when I go home." This is this is how I am with my children. This is how this isn't like a job that I go to and I do dance as a spiritual practice and then I go home and I do something else. I think that it is a lifestyle that you choose. And once you do become embodied, like you said, it's how we're perceiving everything in our lives. It's not I think the practice can hone our skills, perhaps make us in touch, let us learn how to connect. But yes, it needs to be a lifestyle that then we move through life with these same skills that we have possibly learned in a practice. But
Yes, I think you helped me to remember my thought, and that was just simply that, you know, when we're only thinking our way through life, it's like limited. And one of the things that embodied practices offer, and particularly embodied movement practices, is a kind of the understanding and the practice and the pathway of being able to feel our way through life, because that's really how we're like designed to feel our way in life. And so when we're only thinking our way through life, it's like we're missing so much information that can help us to make choices that, create ease and abundance and joy and healing in our lives. So it's a very, day to day.
practical.
It's very practical. I feel like I have been, lately I've been doing this like one thing, like probably at least 8 to 10 times a day, simply to be able to, kind of be with the like what's swirling in the world. And it's very, like a very simple embodiment thing, but just to keep remembering to, like to open my field, to like to open my awareness. Because I find like I start to watch the news and I start to try to, like I hear all these different, I just saw all these images of all, these images of what's happening on the ground there. And it's just my whole body, just my whole being just, goes like this. And I've been really like practicing just opening my field enough that I can actually be present with those feelings. And I can actually be present and discover what is needed for me and for the situation, and for my choices and movement as I move through. And that practice of kind of remembering open awareness, opening my field, that is so soothing for me. It's like my nervous system can find its way. And I've even been, really feeling how the practice of opening and that if we can continue to hold that, that's the space that something new can find its way. Because you can feel it, like something new is like wanting to happen. Like it's so, you get like little glimpses of it, in the news, little parts of the story that like, whoa, like the president staying, and just so many different things that are happening that are new. And that new wants to come in. And, can we together keep, creating the space for that to happen in? And so for me, part of the practice in Azul and part of what I've been doing daily is to just keep returning to that, and to be in that. I'm doing a class later tonight on it, so it's like really up in my awareness at the moment. But it's working. My nervous system is able to be present.
And
And I
it's an
find,
important skill.
yeah.
Again, it's a practice. It's something that maybe we bring in from a spiritual perspective or desire, but then it is a very practical skill in life, because I think what you're talking about is what we used to call intuition, when you felt something in your body. And that was kind of poo-pooed, that we needed to come to a rational explanation, not use our intuition. So that was kind of, we cut that arm off, and we stopped using it. And now we realize how potent it is and how important it is to hone that, but we don't have those skills anymore. We've been so long not using them that we need to reinvigorate whatever that is that gets us to that. But I think, just as you said, doing it as a practice. I remember back, I think it was 2012. I don't remember what year it was, but the center that I had here in Cairo, we used to have women's circles, and it was some transit or something. I don't remember, but it was during one of these circles that it became so clear that as women, because I think as women we have more permission perhaps to use our intuition, whatever it is. Let's just say it's the feminine aspect. And I was saying to these women, we have to do that. We have to tune in to our intuition, because we're being bombarded with information that is not correct. And the body tells the truth. You can feel in your body when somebody is lying to you. Through kinesiology, you can know if somebody is lying. So obviously within the nervous system, there is that apparatus about truth and lie from the person, probably. But that we needed to hone this, because in the future we needed to be able to discern what was the truth and what wasn't. And this was like such a strong message during this particular circle, that this was what we needed to do. And I think as time goes on, it's become more and more obvious. So again, at that point in time, we started doing that like as a practice, that we would just kind of tune in and say, what is the truth? Keep asking ourselves, what is the truth? What is really going on here? Because it's hard. It's hard when you're bombarded with things, the media, whatever, social media, whatever it is, that even people telling you things. But you can get to some point where you know what the truth feels like, and you
Mhm.
know when you're being lied to maybe is a strong word, but when it's not the truth. So manipulated, whatever you want to call it. But I think as individuals, we need to become more discerning. And by connecting to your body, and these practices like you're talking about, this is how we can do that. We don't have to be a victim to everything that's going on around us. We have these skills. We just need to develop them and find ways to develop them and create a practice that makes us practice them every day, so that we become more skillful at discerning what is actually going on around us.
Yes. It reminds me of, one of the things that science is now able to, kind of quantify for us or qualify for us, is that, you know, we are receiving like 11 billion, but I don't know if it's billion, 11 million, well, just 11 million bits of information at any given moment. They're entering through energy, they're entering in waves, and they enter the body in the belly and then rise into the other levels of awareness. So, that science can illustrate this for us
Mhm.
is helpful, because this is like the science of intuition. It's literally how it's happening, and this is one of the things that we're getting to experience in our lifetime, is this, the merging or the coming closer of science and spirituality,
Yes.
that is really helping us to be able to continue to elevate and awaken, because most of us need something concrete, and the science helps us to give validation to what we
Mhm.
know inside.
Neuroception. Yes. Yes. When we perceive with our nervous system. Yes.
Yes.
We knew
Mm.
it. We knew it. We've been doing that for a long time, but science is catching up. No, I think we are in a very exciting time in so many ways. I think the things that are science is confirming, let's put it that way, many of the things that we've known or we've done, and it's exciting because it opens the door. It removes some of those barriers as to all those things that no one was allowed to even look at because no, that doesn't happen. And now those are being removed. Maybe it does. So people are investigating. And I feel excited about this particular period of time because I do think so many things are happening.
I do too. I think we're living at it is an auspicious time. It's,
Hmm.
and I know that many people, you can say that about many moments and many times, but I feel, I do really feel inside of my body that we are in a unique time of awakening on this planet. It's being reflected in what we just said, science and spirituality coming closer together. It's being reflected in the sheer numbers of people that are opening their eyes, that are feeling the desire for something more that's not material. It's being reflected to us, in all of the intensity that we're witnessing in the world, the rising of the shadow to the surface, the rising of what we have not been able to digest and be present with coming to the surface for us to see and to be with. Um, and I am hopeful. I am hopeful about where we sit right now. And I know it doesn't look like that on the outside, but I want to speak these words here to us, now that, that this is an important moment that we're living in. And for me, I believe that we chose to come here right now for
Hmm.
now so that we can be a part of this, each of us. And that whatever, you know, we can resource the body to help us to understand what our particular soul's contribution is right here, what it is that our soul is learning and growing through, and awakening to in this moment, serve this larger field that is happening. And the movement and the dance is, for me, a way to do that, a way to come closer to my soul, a way for you to come closer to your soul, a way for you to come into agreement with life and really use everything that's happening as a part of your awakening, part of your evolution. And the movement and the body and the dance are like, they reflect to us because it's coming from us. This is that's powerful, that you can be kind of in charge, in engagement with. It's coming from you. It's not coming from somebody outside of you telling you something. You can use that and it can inform you, but you are moving and being guided from what is happening inside of you. And that is direct contact to the deepest parts of you, right? That's receiving the information that's like way below the thinking mind. And it's interesting when we look at like the mechanics of it, the physics of it, the science of it in a way. It's like, if we imagine that our bodies are many layers. We're not just a physical body. You know this, where we can map it out different ways, but on a very basic level, there's the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, the more subtle bodies, right? But one of the things I've been really curious about lately is that the emotional body has a particular link up that connects us to our spiritual body. It's kind of like there's a link system in the layers of body. There's a connector point. There's something that happens. I'm not sure. I haven't quite heard the language that totally describes it. I think science is like still got a little ways to go with this one, but I somehow know this. I somehow get it. I get it that it's true. That there's something important about tending to our emotional body that allows us to kind of connect the layers of body to each other. Okay, particularly from the physical all the way to the spiritual, from the etheric, to the spiritual, and it's a part of why I think It's like how do we heal? What is it? What's important about that, right? And one of the things that I think is important is that we're able to kind of digest some of the material that we store in our bodies. And this can be from this lifetime and it can be from past lifetimes. But these, Indians call it samskara. There's different ways. I call it energetic knots. These things that like kind of form in our systems from undigested emotion it's like, I feel like we need to do this right now. There's something about tending on that level that is going to propel our awakening. Like there's some digestion from World War I and World War II and the Cold Wars that is needing to happen in order for this situation in Russia to not be moving the way that it is. That's like a very front and center example. But the same is true inside of us. And we can work with our own story and our emotional material and our emotional knots to support our soul and also the collective field. Like it's all like linked in a way. So sorry, I got off on a little bit of a thing there, but I've just been really curious about this point lately.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's that trauma that collective trauma that we've all been experiencing from period. I mean, that's obviously what is manifesting externally now is the trauma, because it's not one isolated group. It's never one isolated group. It's a collective situation. And so, yes, I think we're all holding that, and if we can all heal ourselves, if each person would heal themselves, the world would be a perfect place. If we could just do our own work, I think that's how we assist humanity is by doing our work. And I think the fact that you added that layer of the shadow onto what you had learned from the 5 rhythms, and I'm sure there's other things, but just that you felt the need to add that layer on, I think that's because that's where we are.
Yeah.
It needed to move forward. There needed to be that other layer that and I think people who do healing see that in the beginning, the new age, and you're all excited, you're doing new things and working with new modalities, and then you get to this point where you hit the wall, you hit the shadow, you hit something too deep that all of this isn't quite not as fun. That's not the way I want to put it, but all of a sudden it takes on a seriousness or depth or however. So it's I think it takes courage to be on a spiritual path. Maybe people don't realize that when they first take those first steps, because it is you're throwing all this stuff off and it seems really easy and really light, but then there is that point where you have to encounter something that's a bit deeper, and that's where the real healing is.
But the reward is so beautiful.
Yes.
That's what I see over and over again is the incredible, um, love that is awakened once as we are able, to move through these layers inside of us. Every time we do that, we get to experience more love. We get to have that felt sensation in our body. We get to kind of know ourselves as that and feel what that feels like. And it's so, blissful, really, in that way. And it's this, beautiful dance that we do here between the light and the dark. It's not bad. And healing is not because something's broken. Healing is simply because that's what we're here to do. We're here to grow and evolve through this experience of living. And that is healing. It's not because something is broken. And I think it's really important for me, at least, to name that into this conversation, because I almost feel like I hope we kind of grow out of the not it's not it's very important that the word trauma has come forward into our vocabulary. Very, very important. And I also hope that there is an evolution of that recognizes that we all encounter things, particularly in our childhood years, that are it's like the blueprint for the soul's journey. It's like you're receiving exactly what you need for you to grow through for the rest of your life. So, and yes, that is a trauma. And yet, I don't know what the word is yet. It hasn't emerged into our collective field yet. But that is, not something, that is a thing of beauty for me. That's why we come to go through what we go through so that we can learn and grow through it. So, yeah. Wonder what that word will be.
Well, I think what you brought to my mind was that it's said for any healing or to move to another energetic level, there has to be a shock. So, like in homeopathy, when we prepare a remedy, we're succussing it, we're hitting it, because you have to hit something. There has to be this shock in order to drive energy up to another level. Or in chemistry, we have the different orbits of the electrons. There has to be like this hit in order for the electron to move to the next field. There's shell. No, what's the word? I don't know. I don't remember my chemistry. It eludes me at this moment. But anyway, to move to the next level, there needs to be this shock. And I think that that's what the trauma is. Like the trauma is, or a challenge or whatever it is that shock, that energetic shock that allows us to move to the next level. And again, like homeopathy, you resolve that by hitting until you break whatever that is. And that's that critical mass. And then the whole thing just breaks and it just dissolves. So I think that, shock is the word that comes to my mind, that we need and again, maybe there's a better word for that, but that we need that hit of whatever that is to just drive us to another energy level.
Well, I can certainly feel that in what's happening in the world right now.
Yeah.
That we are needing to be shocked.
Yes. And to realize that things are, that we are each on a personal path. I think you brought that in earlier when you were saying that each person needs to kind of go through. And I think the thing about emotions, you were talking about how emotions or the emotional body connects to the spiritual body. Well, emotion is the language of the body. So I think in order to interpret what the spirit is trying to say, it has to say it through emotion. So maybe that's kind of the pipeline, that brings it into the body, or the language that the body understands, so that it can be understood, whatever it is that needs to happen. So
Yeah.
each of us, our individual bodies and soul, but I mean, we're going through our personal journey, so it is personal. The things that happen to us are going to be personal, even if what's happening in the world might be collective. How it impacts each one of us is based on what our personal journey is. So it's going to change slightly, or we will receive it or understand it in a slightly different way based on what it is that we need to learn from the situation. So I think it's
Yeah.
important to remember that we are on a personal journey, and we have to process whatever is happening to us personally in order to grow from
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. And, and we are in one way in a shift from the I to the we, right? But the we includes the I. And it's the I that actually allows us to feel the we. So it's like we've kind of gotten like rigid with our I, a little attached to like I and me and separate, so um but what I hear you saying about, how important the recognizing the personal part of it, because it is. It's like we can't really get to the we unless we can fully, unless we're like engaged in our particular I. But what happens is that I awakens to a point where it's a part of the we. And this shift is really what we're trying to navigate, right? Into we, because the we is what is needed for us to, as humans, to evolve, a recognition of our interconnectedness, a recognition of being one earth and one planet, perhaps without boundaries and borders. And it's not like tomorrow that's going to happen, but like eventually, right? That we are a planet that's a part of a universe, that's a part of like we're a part of something. We're not just alone on a planet. Our relationship to who we are as beings on Earth, that is in relationship to the rest of the cosmos, is actually something that I think in the next year or two is going to become louder. It's interesting that you're in Egypt. It's like it's just this understanding of ourselves as a we, that's a we on the planet, and also a we that's part of a galactic community is important. It's like this is our evolution. And so here we are today, now, coming back into this moment. And what can we do here now? And everything that we do to be in our own personal transformation does it moves everything. It moves all of it. It's one of the most powerful things that we can do, like to do our work, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
What to do, what our work is here. And we know what that work is, because your life is showing you exactly what it is almost every day.
If you
And
listen, going back to what you said, that you have to listen. Yes.
listen, exactly. And if you engage with it in that way, it is showing you. And of course, it does really help to have practices. Like we can move faster through things. Like we can take a really long time to get something, or we can take a short time to get something. Okay. And we're at a pretty fast clip right now. There is an express train that is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, let's ride that together. Let's dance together. Let's show up together and take it as far as we can, because it's here to happen. And it's part of why it's so exciting, actually, to be, I love being on dance floors with people, whether they're virtual now or in person. It's just it's I never tire of that, ever. I tire of all the back end that it takes to make all that happen, but I never
That will get
tire.
easier as well.
That will get easier, yes.
It has
And
already, yes.
it has already, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we've really come so far. I never thought we could dance online.
Yep.
Never thought we could do movement online. And here we are.
Yep.
I'm having amazing experiences online. During COVID, we had to transition our whole thing online. And, it's been so powerful to do that. And, we, part of Azul is doing these OneDanceTribe events. And we right before COVID hit, we ended up doing a conscious dance conference online. And it was a huge step because nobody had ever done anything online with movement. Not nobody, but I certainly hadn't, and many people that I'm connected to in the movement world had not. And so we did that. And what a blessing that was. Because then when COVID hit, we were ready to pivot, to show up,
Yeah.
and then and ride that. And what happened, what was possible, online. It's like, it's different than in person. It's not the same, but there is an equal depth to what I have experienced with people, guiding them and being present in the online programs. I think partly because you're in your own space, and
Sacred space.
you have your sacred space, and there's when you're not around the other bodies and all that electromagnetic energy, you're able to kind of go a little deeper in yourself. So there's that element that kind of serves in its own way. And I also think we're learning about being connected
Yes.
in this way by showing up like this together. There's something that is stretching and growing in us as we do this with each other. That's what I've been
Yes.
experiencing doing the
And
work on.
it's a shift because I was one of the early adopters when I closed the
Yeah,
center in 2015. I took everything online. So I was ready.
you were
When the
ready.
pandemic
Good.
hit, I was ready.
You
But
helped me get
everything
ready.
changed. Yeah. And it was really beautiful to see how it changed.
Yeah,
It's very different. The experience in 2020 was very different than the experience in 2015. And I
yeah.
think a big part of it was less resistance and
Yes.
people becoming more familiar, and the companies really upped their game.
They did.
They put improvements in that were not there before. So and I think if you hadn't done it online before, you probably didn't realize that, but a lot
Yeah.
changed. And
Yeah.
in people's consciousness, like they wanted to connect in that way, whereas before they were really resistant.
It's back to that shock that you spoke of. There was a
Exactly.
shock in the system,
Yes.
and it made us available. It opened us and made
Yep.
us available to something new.
Yeah. And
Well, thank
receptive
you
to
for
that
doing what
idea.
you did.
Maybe we can go into OneDanceTribe a little bit. Explain to us what that is, and you mentioned the
You know,
embodiment conference or embodied movement conference.
I mentioned the Conscious Dance Conference which was the first conference that we did. And then just recently, we had our second, attempt at the big conference field, and we expanded it to kind of shift to open the container a little bit beyond just conscious dance, to kind of include a broader field. So we called it the Embodied Movement Conference, and it felt really important. It was like building a bridge so that people in the consciousness world and in the awakening world could kind of find the movement,
Mhm.
and that people in the movement world could stretch and receive some of the information and the what is helpful about understanding ourselves in this moment from the consciousness world and from the awakening world. So for me, it was this prayer of building a bridge, and it really worked. It
It
was
did. I attended
Yeah,
several things and it was beautiful. Yes.
yeah, yeah. It really it touched me very much to do that, and it's that whole energy, kind of it's all been a part of me that began with the One Dance Tribe events, and even before the names of those events before the One Dance Tribe, because it's been a part of me that has always believed in that we has always felt the need to tend to and nurture a we. So at first I was doing that just in the five rhythms world, like bringing different five rhythms teachers together as one. And then that expanded to be different modalities coming together as one, because there's something that we are needing to learn, and we were experiencing it in these events. It's why the Embodied Movement Conference was so rich. Part of why is because that feeling of collaboration, that feeling of being in a we, it's the same feeling that I've been tracking for 20 years now, since I've been doing these events. And it's important, and it's healing, and it healed five rhythms being in relationship to soul motion and movement medicine and all the different modalities that came out of Gabrielle's tree of movement, and then I started to include other movement modalities even outside of Gabrielle's tree. And like I just shared, the latest version of it is to build that bridge to the world of consciousness. And that same feeling of we has been the thread throughout all of them. So the One Dance Tribe events, with COVID, they went away because we did one online, which was really beautiful, but the physical events stopped, because we used to do one or two big events every year with that project to provide a space for us to gather and to feel that. Yeah. And I'm happy to say that we're actually going to have a One Dance Tribe reunion this year, because it's time, because it's possible for us to gather again in a large circle. So that will happen. That event will happen July 1st through the 6th in Germany. And you're welcome to come. They're super. My staff, my team of people, I was like, we're not going to do this event unless you guys want to. And they were like, we're doing the event. They want to do it
They're
because it feels
ready.
good. Because they know, because they just did the Embodied Movement Conference. Doing those
Yeah.
conferences is a lot of work. And
Yeah.
the team was incredible. And they gave so much to make that possible. And they are rewarded from that. How they feel, they're tired physically, but their their hearts are wide open from nurturing that field. And so they want to do it again with the One Dance Tribe event that will happen in July. And then we're going to do another conference probably in October. And just because it was so good, and I want to do it again. It's important. I think
It
there's something
was.
that's nurtured.
No, it was very. I mean, like I said, I really enjoyed it. And if people want, they can still purchase the collection. So just go to embodied-movement-conference.com/collection, and I will put that link in the show notes. But if you want to experience it, it's well worth it. So you
Yes, and
still
we've been
can.
hearing beautiful feedback. You still can, and it's a really rich little library for you to, pick up a pearl and enjoy, and just each one of them was like a beautiful experience. So, and there's like 33 of them that you get as part of the collection. So enjoy.
Yes. All right. Well, maybe we can let people know how they can get in touch with you if they're interested to follow up.
Yeah, there we go. There's the Path of Azul. That's great.
Pathofazul.com, one word, pathofazul.com. That's
Yeah.
your website.
And
And
then there's
you are
one, oh,
on
sorry, you do this.
Instagram, Amaro Pagano Azul on Instagram. And again, I will have all this in the show notes. Facebook at Azul.conscious movement. And then you also have a membership portal, which is
Yes. And this is perhaps a really helpful resource for you. It's super affordable. In fact, you can, the first 2 weeks are free. So you can just check it out and see. And it'll give you like a beginning to explore, conscious movement video that, gives you like a 20-minute experience so that you can kind of be guided step by step into this kind of work. And then it's got a huge library that you can choose from of different movement experiences. So you can really take it as far as you want. You can just do it once a month. I teach a live class in the portal once a month. You can just come and dance with me once a month. There's 2 classes in the portal. You can dance twice. I give you a new movement, a 10-minute movement meditation each week. So you can do them as many as you want. There's a pearl of wisdom that comes to you. There's a lot of beauty that is delivered to you each week. And you can just participate with it in the way that works for your life and that moment of time for you. Okay. There's no pressure about it. It's really affordable, and it is meant to be a support system for you. It's a resource for you to be able to experience your embodied self. Okay. And be on a journey of embodied awakening. Okay. So check out that resource and see if it speaks to you. See if it feels right for you. And if it
and
does, I'll
that's
see you there.
yes, and that's Path of Azul, one word, no spaces, .com// membership dash portal. And again, I will put that in the show notes so you can check that out. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Amara, for being with me. It's been a beautiful conversation. I'm so excited to hear about all the things that you've been doing. And as I said, the embodied movement conference was wonderful. So I hope people will check that out because it was well worth it. And I'm glad that you will be doing another one soon, another one in live and online. And I'm guessing all of that information is on your website if people want to know more.
Yeah. If
Okay.
you sign up to get the mailing list, you'll get
Okay.
lots of correspondence
Excellent.
and news.
And again, that's pathofazul.com. So you can keep up with what's going on. Well, thank you.
And I want to
Thank you for
thank you.
being here.
That's delightful.
It's been lovely to chat with you and learn more. So thank you for being here.
You're most welcome. And I look forward to seeing you again somewhere.
Our paths will cross
Our path, something has
somewhere,
begun.
sometime. Yep. The
Okay.
seed is planted. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, that was lovely. And I hope you will check out the membership portal and also the Embodied Movement Conference. I didn't attend all of the lectures, but the ones that I did were well worth it. And um, it was for me nice to see all these different modalities, and most of it I think is experiential. So you will get to try different modalities. So that's a nice benefit. So let me just tell you, next month, my guest will be Yaakov Darling Khan, and he's the founder, he's an author and a co-founder of Movement Medicine and co-director of the School of Movement Medicine. And that will be on the 10th of April. So I hope you will join then. And again, please like and share. And if you enjoyed this, share it with your friends. And if you subscribe, then you will be notified when new videos come out. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you all here next time. Bye bye.